Welcome everyone to the Puck Drops here and day 16 of the NHL suspension. Uh, all that uh, episode. Excuse me for the fumbling and mumbling around. And also, you'll see on my channel there's another video of the same name. That's incorrect. The computer froze. I was not able to stream it correctly. It will be deleted momentarily. So I got that and I got this. And obviously, I'll say the PSA. I always say, everyone, please try to be safe and uh, stay in your house and don't go out if you don't need to. Follow great precautions and all of that can be done. It's very vital that you do so. So, as I say that, let's jump into the NHL standings and the NHL games. Yep, I remember to do the games first. Pittsburgh played Carolina last night, and the Hurricanes got a 4-2 win, a game-winning goal scored by Dougie Hamilton, a shot right up the middle that beats Matt Murray, and a 4-2 regulation win for the Hurricanes. They get 2 points. Pittsburgh gets none. The Flyers head over to New Jersey and get a huge victory over the Devils. The game-winning goal there scored by Hayes. The Florida Panthers visit a Boston Bruin team that's just resting up for the playoff run that they'll have. But the Bruins still beat Florida. Game-winning goal there scored by another defenseman, Torrey Krug. The Detroit Red Wings finally upset the Capitals. And the game-winning goal comes off the guy that's been the best player for Detroit, in Tyler Bertuzzi. The Islanders head over to Montreal and get an overtime goal by the captain, Anders Lee. 2 points for the Isles. The Toronto Maple Leafs blank Ottawa with a dominant win. And the game-winning goal there, with a 5-0 win, is scored by John Tavares. The Rangers lose in overtime to the Lightning. Game-winning goal there. Sorry if you couldn't see me. Scored by Steven Stamkos. Also, there is some significance for wearing the Lightning hat again. You'll hear of that later. The Blue Jackets head over to Dallas, and the Stars beat the Blue Jackets in a shootout. Short shootout, and the game-winning shootout goal scored by Alexander Radulov. The Buffalo Sabres head to Minnesota, and the Wild are just too dominant for the Sabres. A 6-4 win, Game-winning goal there is scored by Zach Parise. The Nashville Predators are outlasted 6-5 by the Arizona Coyotes. A lot of high scoring. The Coyotes game-winning goal is scored by a guy that hasn't been great for the Coyotes this year, but he turns on the Jets and is able to play well for them, scoring the game-winning goal this game, and it's Taylor Hall. And lastly, the Vancouver Canucks destroy Anaheim, a 7-1 win. The game-winning goal there scored by Chris Tanev. So let's get into the standings here. Boston extends their President's Trophy League lead with 116 points with 78 games played, 8 games on the docket for the Boston Bruins. The Tampa Bay Lightning gather 102 points in 79 games played as they've clinched a playoff spot already. The Panthers have 92 points in 79 games played. The Maple Leafs also with 92 points as the Panthers are third, have 78 games played, a game in hand on Florida, and they sit in the second wild card spot. The Canadiens have 80 points and have played 78 games. They are eliminated from the playoff. The Sabres have 75 points, also eliminated. The Senators have 65, also eliminated with 77. The Red Wings have played 79 games played and are eliminated. The reason for the Lightning hat, and I'll say it now, is the Tampa Bay Lightning, with that win, I can't speak, as what was said yesterday, have clinched a second in the division. So they will be hosting either the Florida Panthers or the Toronto Maple Leafs in round number 2, which means that possibly either the loser of the Toronto Florida race or one of the second wild card teams will be going to TD Garden to play the Bruins. So part of the matchups are set. The Lightning have clinched second in the Atlantic Division and will be hosting either the Maple Leafs or the Panthers. Also, the Lightning have never played either of those teams in the playoffs before. They've had close scenarios where they've come dangerously close to playing the Maple Leafs in the playoffs, but they never have, and they've never played their cross-state rivals in a playoff meeting. But one of those two will happen this season. So we get into that. In the Metropolitan Division, the Flyers have 103 points and have played 78 games with a 3-point lead on the Capitals, who are in second place with 100 points and 78 games played. 4 points behind the 1 point behind the Caps, and 4 points behind their cross-state rivals are the Penguins with 99 points, but a game in hand on both Washington and Philly. The Islanders have 94 points and sit in the first wild card spot with 78 games played. 4 points behind the Islanders and 2 points behind the Maple Leafs are the Hurricanes at 90 points and 78 games played. And a point behind Carolina are the New York Rangers with 89 points and 78 games played. And a point behind the Rangers are the Blue Jackets with 88 points and 78 games played. The Devils, the only team in the Metropolitan still that are chasing a playoff spot and are not chasing a playoff spot, because they have been eliminated. The Devils tally 72 points with 77 games played. In the Western Conference, in the Central, in the Western Conference in general, no eliminations so far and no clinchers so far. We're getting close to, even in the West, there will have to be more eliminations and more clinchers. There hasn't been a clincher in a long time, and it hasn't been since 2 days ago when the Blackhawks were eliminated in elimination. And it's been a long time since a team's been eliminated in the Pacific Division, since Anaheim was eliminated. Since the LA Kings, were eliminated. The Blues have 104 points in 77 games played, with the game in hand on the Avs. Both teams are the only teams in the Western Conference that are eligible for home ice throughout the entire Western Conference. They're battling for it, as the Blues have 104 points, 77 games played, a game in hand on Colorado, who has 103 points with 78 games played. The Dallas Stars hold 92 points with 77 games played. They have not clinched third place in the Central Division yet, but it looks like they'll be close to doing that. Fourth place in the Central belongs to the Wild, who hold 88 points in the second wild card spot with 78 games played. The most games in hand on those four teams, obviously, are the Stars. In fifth place are the Predators with 86 points and 77 games played. In sixth place are the Winnipeg Jets. Are the Winnipeg Jets, who hold 84 points and also have played 77 games. And the Blackhawks have 81 points and have played 78 games, the only team in the Central that has been eliminated from Stanley Cup playoff contention. In the Pacific Division, a lot has changed. No one has clinched, but the Vancouver Canucks suddenly find themselves in first place of the division with 94 points and 78 games played. That's right, folks, the Vancouver Canucks. In second place sit the Edmonton Oilers, who hold 94 points and have played 79 games. The most games played by any team in the National Hockey League. There are only 3 games left on the docket for the Oilers, which is good for them that the long season is almost finished, but is bad because teams like Vegas and Vancouver will have games in hand, and possibly even a lower seed like a Calgary or Arizona could unseed them. And speaking of that, Edmonton, Vegas has 92 points, 2 points behind Edmonton and also Vancouver, with 77 games played, a game in hand on the Canucks and 2 games in hand on Edmonton. The Calgary Flames have 88 points, 4 points behind Vegas, and 6 points behind the Oilers and the Canucks for the first wild card spot, and have played 78 games. And the Arizona Coyotes are still in it with 83 points and 77 games played for them. In fifth place, and in sixth place are the Ducks, who've been eliminated. They hold 71 points with 78 games played. The Sharks hold 69 points with 78 games played, and the Kings hold 66 points with 77 games played. So those are all the standings for today and all the scores for today. Let's look at tomorrow's games. For tomorrow, 8 games on the docket. The Battle of Pennsylvania, and it couldn't have come at a more important time. The Flyers are hosting the Penguins in Wells Fargo, or in the center. And did someone say Wells Fargo? Yes, we certainly did. What a game that will be. Flyers and Penguins tomorrow night. The LA Kings go to Chicago for old playoff rematch. Both teams are eliminated from the playoffs, so it won't mean much. Another team eliminated from the playoffs, the New Jersey Devils, host a team that certainly is in the mix, the Carolina Hurricanes, trying to jump right back in. And the Hurricanes cannot clinch tomorrow, but they can jump in, I believe. Hold on. They cannot jump into a playoff spot, but they can jump into absolute contention for one. The Golden Knights visit Winnipeg. Vegas trying to tie Edmonton and Vancouver for the lead in the division. The Minnesota Wild visit St. Louis. Minnesota trying to creep even closer to the Dallas Stars. The St. Louis Blues are trying to really get that home ice advantage that they need in the Western Conference, that they'd like to have, especially if they want to go far and keep the Stanley Cup at the Arc. The Anaheim Ducks visit Edmonton. The Oilers, who beat down the Ducks very badly a few nights ago, are trying to gain a complete foothold on the Pacific Division. I believe there's a slight chance that if things go right, the Edmonton Oilers could clinch a playoff spot again. Nashville is 2 points out of a playoff position. They cannot get into the playoffs, but they can't wild card spot, but they can tie Minnesota for one, depending on what happens with the Blues. The Avalanche also are trying to gain a foothold on best record in the Western Conference. No one can win the division or clinch that seed yet, but teams can come close. Arizona trying to get right back in the mix, and the San Jose Sharks are trying to play spoiler. So that'll all be tomorrow night. Hopefully, guys will join me and visit this show, watch this show to see what happens tomorrow on how the seeding works and how teams will fare. Hopefully, there will be a good result. Again, everyone stay safe. Tune in tomorrow for day 17 of this coronavirus episode. This is Peter 5 Foot saying goodbye and good night. Happy hockey, everybody.